This will be the second presentation on Brazil. Hopefully this will prepare us a little bit for some of the areas that we'll be visiting in our upcoming January tour. We'll be flying from Atlanta to the city of Sao Paulo, one of the largest cities in the world. We'll spend a couple of days there where we'll go to an area called Campinas and we'll visit a coffee plantation and some sugarcane processing facility, and then we'll fly about 800 miles inland to the state of Mato Grosso, which is the largest soybean producing area in the world. And we'll spend about 4 days there touring soybean farms, cattle farms, some research facilities. So it'll be a really fascinating area. Then we'll fly about 700 miles south to the Falls of Iguaçu, and we will spend a couple of days resting there before we go on to the state of Rio Grande do Sul, which is an area of much smaller farms. It's a tobacco producing area, also soybeans, just a wide diversity of crops and animals. After we spend a couple of days there, we'll fly back north to Sao Paulo, where we'll spend about a day, and then we'll fly home. Just to get you started thinking in terms of metrics, a metric ton, 2,200 pounds, a kilogram, 2.2 pounds, a kilometer, about 6/10 of a mile, a hectare, about 2.5 acres, and a liter's a little over a quart. And you'll be thinking in terms of metrics before we get back. Just to refresh your memory, we talked about last time what a large agricultural producer Brazil was. They're number one in sugar, number one in coffee, number one in orange juice, number one in soybeans, number two in beef, number three in poultry, number three in corn, and number four in pork, and number five in cotton. And they're also very large exporters of all these areas, as you can see. In fact, they're our number one global competitor for most of our agriculture. Including tobacco, and tobacco is not on the chart. They're the largest producer of flue-cured tobacco, or excuse me, the largest exporter of flue-cured tobacco. If you look at land use in Brazil, they have a lot of open land. They have about 173 million hectares of pasture. That's equivalent to about 427 million acres. Sao Paulo, we're going to spend a couple of days there. We'll go to an area nearby called not including soybeans. We'll visit a coffee plantation, and that's about 62 million acres. Energy plant soybean production is about 22.5 million hectares. That's about 50. As I mentioned, Brazil is the world's largest coffee producing country, followed only by Colombia and Vietnam, which are distant second and third. They're also, of course, the world's largest exporter of coffee.
Coffee production in Brazil is responsible for about a third of all coffee, making Brazil by far the world's largest producer, a position the country has held for the last 150 years. Coffee plantations, covering some 27,000 kilometers, are mainly located in the southeastern states of Minas Gerais, São Paulo, and Paraná, where the environment and climate provide ideal growing conditions. The crop first arrived in Brazil in the 18th century, and the country had become the dominant producer by the 1840s. Production as a share of world production peaked in the 1920s, with the country supplying 80% of the world's coffee, but has declined since the 1950s due to increased global production. Coffee is not native to the Americas and had to be planted in the country. The first coffee bush in Brazil was planted by Francisco de Melo Palheta in the state of Pará in 1727. According to the legend.
Okay, there's some additional information on coffee. They're also the world's largest sugar producers, we mentioned. They produce, looks like maybe close to a quarter of the world's sugar, and they do use a lot of it for ethanol. They've been doing ethanol since way before the rest of the world was thinking about it. So after we spend a couple of days in the Campinas area, we will fly on to Rondonópolis, which is in the state of Mato Grosso, where we'll visit the towns of Primavera do Leste, Campo Verde, and the capital city of the Mato Grosso, Cuiabá. We'll be there from Tuesday through Friday of that first week, and we'll see lots of soybeans, we'll see cattle, and we'll also visit the world's largest soybean farm, which is just a large farm in general, called Grupo Bonfuturo. And a little later on, I'll show you a promotional video from them that'll give you sort of an idea of what you'll get to be seeing. Just as we mentioned, Brazil is a very large soybean producer. Back in 2009, when this slide was made, they were not as large a producer as the U.S., but by 2012, they had surpassed us in both production and exports of soybeans. This shows you the soybean producing areas. We'll be going to the state of Mato Grosso, which is the state represented or abbreviated MT. There in the center, it's what they call their Midwest, and those green areas are soybean producing areas. We'll just see a small part of that state of Mato Grosso there in the southernmost area, which is the most developed area. My understanding is as you get further north and west, it's more frontier-like, and you'll see it's a little bit frontier-like where we'll be going. And also notice that the southern three states, the traditional ag area of Brazil, also produce a lot of soybeans. Let me just talk about exchange rates for a little bit. This is a very, very important topic right now. As the Brazilian economy has tanked and they're seeing their GDP shrink, the value of their currency has also fallen dramatically. This chart shows you the blue line is reals per euro. The top line is US dollars per euro, and you can see that our currency has been doing the opposite of the Brazilian currency. It's been strengthening. What that means is that US products relative to Brazilian products are much more expensive on the world market right now, simply because of the exchange rate situation. So it makes us less competitive in terms of prices. This illustrates that point a little bit better. If you look at soybean prices in Brazil, soybeans are sold in reals per sack rather than per bushel. A sack is 60 kilograms, which is 132 pounds, or about 2.2 bushels. Look at, on my chart here, December of 2013. Soybeans, I think, were around $13 a bushel here in the United States. At that time, in the Mato Grosso, that's where these prices are from, they were 72 reals per sack. That's equivalent to about 33 reals per bushel. And if you took the exchange rate in December of 2013, which was 2.3 reals per US dollar, that gave you an equivalent price in the Mato Grosso of about $14 per bushel. Now fast forward to last week. If you look at the price of soybeans in the Mato Grosso in the 7th of December of this year, it was about 66 reals per sack, which is equivalent to about 30 reals per bushel. Notice that's about a 9% drop from the price 2 years ago in 2013 when they were 33 reals per bushel. I know you soybean farmers are thinking about, I wish my soybean prices had only dropped 9% in 2 years. Well, take that $30 30 reals per bushel in the Mato Grosso and translate it into US dollars at the current exchange rate of 3.88 reals per US dollar, and that gives you about $7.72 US dollars per bushel equivalent for the price in the Mato Grosso. Now when you convert it to US dollars, notice that that's about 45% below the price from 2013. So in reals, the price per bushel has only dropped about 9%. When you convert it to dollars, the price has dropped about 45%. And now you get some sense of how much difference exchange rates make and why you'll hear so much talk about them, because all Brazilian products, whether it's LG TVs that are produced in Brazil, or whether it's soybeans or iron ore, or whether it's cotton or cattle, all those prices are much lower simply because of exchange rates right now. Well, now I want to show you the
For more than 30 years in agribusiness market,
promotional video. You'll probably see this when you go to this farm
began
in
its
Brazil.
journey
This will
with a
give you a heads
small
up so you'll
farm
kind of know what to
and
expect.
eager to work.
It was started, interestingly, by
The project
four
grew,
family members
and the
from
company
southern
is now a
states
productive
of,
power,
Brazil,
thanks
went
to
up there in the
determination,
1970s and started this
courage,
farm when
and
basically this was just a
entrepreneurship of
frontier
its
area.
4 partners: Iraí Maggi Scheffer, Elusmar Maggi Scheffer, Fernando Maggi Scheffer, and José Maria Bortoli. With more than 110 farms and 37 centralized units in the state of Mato Grosso, the Bom Futuro Group employs approximately 5,300 people. Some of the priorities of the group are the rational use of natural resources, environmental and recycling projects, reforestation and land reclamation. In addition, the excellence in valuing people is always present by citizenship, ethics, employee recognition, encouragement to amateur sport, volunteerism, and commitment to society. In other words, social and environmental responsibility. Currently, Grupo Bom Futuro has 5 business divisions. The Agricultural Division, responsible for producing around 1,600,000 tons of grains, including soybeans and corn, secured to recognition of the Bom Futuro Group as the largest individual soy producer in the world. In addition, the company also produces more than 160 tons of cotton lint in the state of Mato Grosso. This is all possible thanks to planning combined with cutting-edge technology employed in the group. The high volume of production demanded of Grupo Bom Futuro investment in a new line of business, the Bom Futuro Transportation. With about 400 tractor trucks, 320 of them being large, each season the carrier of Grupo Bom Futuro moved for the 19 warehouses of the company 100% of its grain production. In addition, part of this fleet carries tons of cotton lint benefit from the group to the ports of Santos and Paranaguá. In the way back, they are loaded with inputs used in the fields of Bom Futuro. That's logistical planning at the service of productivity. Acting in the national market, the Seeds Division of Bom Futuro markets for recognized companies in Brazil soybeans and high genetic quality cotton. Member of one of the country's largest plant breeding companies, DMG, the Bom Futuro Group seeks partnerships with national and international companies, seeking to optimize resources, increase productivity, and environmental preservation. Grupo Bom Futuro also excels in livestock, having the country's largest crop livestock integration project, where are created over 120,000 cattle of Nelore, half-blood Aberdeen, and Red Angus in semi-confinement system. To feed his flock, the group produces about 300 tons of ration per day at each factories, with high-quality nutritional products. Another group division is fish farming, responsible for sustainably producing each year more than 2,000 tons of fish in 3 production units in excavated tank and a production unit in network tank that altogether add up to about 230 hectares of surface. Moreover, the Bom Futuro factory has its own ration factory, which produces 6 tons hour. All this to provide excellent product quality and contribute to the preservation of our rivers. Realizing the water potential in the state of Mato Grosso, the group invested in clean and renewable energy generation to enhance the industrial and agricultural development in new regions. The Bom Futuro Energy currently has 3 small hydroelectric power plants and intends to expand further while respecting the environment. All these projects are made possible by the concern that the group has with nature. One of the highlights of Grupo Bom Futuro, Separou project, aims to mobilize all internal community, involving and committing all in support of environmental awareness regarding reduction, reuse, and recycling of waste produced. In addition to this, afforestation and conservation projects and restoration of permanent preservation areas are also priorities for the group. Sustainable is being socially fair. Thinking about that, the group has devoted efforts to create the Future Volunteers Project, which motivates and encourages each day more employees to become volunteers together to perform actions and visits to charitable institutions. 30 years ago, 4 entrepreneurs who were not afraid of challenges broke new ground in Brazil. They found in Mato Grosso a land of opportunity to start what today is one of the largest agribusiness companies in Brazil and the world. With constant investment in technology, research, and infrastructure. At the same pace it grows, the Bom Futuro also encourages its employees to have socially just and sustainable attitudes, respecting the environment and the nature of our country, in search of innovation at the service of productivity.
Okay, well, after we do all that, we will be tired, and so we will fly to the Falls of Iguaçu, and we will stay there a couple of days, and you can see the hotel name there. We'll be there Saturday and Sunday, January 23rd and 24th. It'll be very nice, and we will need a rest, and so I'll let you look up that and do a little research on that yourself. After the falls, we'll fly down to the state of Rio Grande do Sul. We'll be flying to Porto Alegre, where we'll take a bus back to Santa Cruz do Sul. Santa Cruz do Sul is a very, very nice town. You'll enjoy staying there. It's the center of a farming area just above Uruguay and Argentina, and it's smaller farms, mid-sized farms. Looks eerily like the Carolinas in some ways. And it's also the center of their tobacco producing area, so we'll be looking at some tobacco farms there. Let me just give you a little background on tobacco. The world produced about 8.8 billion pounds of flue-cured tobacco in 2015. That's the kind of tobacco that North Carolina produces. We grow about 75% of the flue-cured tobacco in the United States. You'll notice that globally though, the U.S. grows about 6% of this flue-cured tobacco, Brazil about 12%, and Zimbabwe about 4%. China grows over half of it. Now, Zimbabwe, the Brazil, and the United States grow a flavor style, very premium style flue-cured tobacco that is sought after in cigarette blends around the world, and these three compete intensely with each other for the market for this premium style flue-cured tobacco. And if you look at production in these three countries, you'll see that Brazil is the largest of the three. They produce 1 billion to 1.5 billion pounds of flue-cured tobacco each year. The United States produces 400 to 500 million pounds of flue-cured tobacco. In Zimbabwe, 300 to 400 million pounds. This slide is from data from Universal Corporation. They're the world's largest global leaf merchant. They're based in Richmond, Virginia. They have large operations in Brazil, and we will be hosted by their Brazilian operations when we're in the state of Rio Grande do Sul.
E aqui no sul do Brasil, vou ser bem franco, no país, no mundo inteiro, ninguém consegue fazer a qualidade que nós fizemos aqui. Isso enche nós de orgulho, minha família, e tenho para dizer assim, que é um trabalho digno.
Tobacco, tradition and income. In 2013, Brazil again ranked as leading tobacco exporter in the world. This performance has reflections on the lives of thousands of Brazilian citizens.
Eu sou pequeno, mas o meu trabalho é grande. Corre mundo afora, para mais de 100 países. É ou não é para ter orgulho?
Produced by Cindy Tobacco.
Okay, that gives you a little background on some of the things that we'll be seeing in our visit. Now, once we finish up in Rio Grande do Sul, we'll fly back to Sao Paulo, and we'll have about a day there. One of the things that we'll do that day is visit a very large produce market, which you'll find fascinating. I only wish we could have visited one here in the States so that you could compare and contrast, because I have a feeling you'd find a lot of differences. Then we'll fly home, and it should be an awesome tour. Hopefully this whetted your appetite to do a little more research. You'll get a very detailed schedule and agenda for this trip a little bit later on that tells you exactly where we'll be staying, the hotels, most of which you can look up online. And so we'll try to give you some more information on Brazil as we go along. So hopefully this is helpful to you, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.